Kim, can you do our housekeeping before we get started?
I was just getting ready to start.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission Executive Committee meeting. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raise hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder, this is a video conference per Bagley King requirements. All cameras must be kept on during the duration of the meeting. If you are unable to have your camera on, you must indicate a reason for your non-appearance during the meeting. Please be aware of the surroundings behind you. All committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar's website. Zoom captioning is available to enable select live transcript, at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and then select enable auto transcript. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Let's do roll call.
Sure. Connolly?
Present.
Elsteroff? Absent. Escobedo? Absent. Milrod?
Here.
Blakemore?
Here.
Falcon?
Here.
Judge Rosie?
Here.
Right. Keep an eye out for our liaisons, Selena or Melanie. I don't see yet. I may be joining shortly.
I
And then
think I see Selena. Do you want me to promote her?
I see Selena in the
Thank you.
attendee.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Present.
Thanks, Selena. Okay, and I'll just make a note of State Bar staff present. Dwan, Kimberly, and myself. We have 5 members and have quorum.
Great. Thanks, Crystal. Do we have any members of the public that would like to make public comment today? And just a reminder, that public comment needs to be on issues that the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission deals with and or on things that are agendized today.
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and move to 1.1, which is the chair report. I don't actually have much to report today other than to wish everyone a happy Halloween and then hope everyone stays safe and manages to snag some candy, parent tax or grandparent tax or just general tax. Oh, I see Ephraim just joined us as well. Hi, Ephraim. So that's all I have on my report, unless Dwan tells me there's something that I'm missing, but I think that's it. And so I'll turn it over to Dwan for the director report.
Yeah, and I just have a couple short updates. I'm mostly administrative, but on the substantive front, I don't have an IOLTA update for you today. I'm going to be doing that at the larger commission meeting, just to say that if you've been following kind of the news since the last time we met, the feds now have started to drop rates. We had built that into our projection. So for our revenue this year, we're okay. We're on track. We're actually surpassing it by a couple $1 million for 2026. Next year is going to be where the volatility is going to happen because the feds have already signaled that they are going to drop again. We're having a hard time figuring out in our office what we should be projecting next year's in terms of how low that's going to go next year. But we will bring something to the commission to share, and programs have appreciated us at least taking a stab at it and doing a 3-year out projection. So we will do that, and I'll share that at the next Friday's commission meeting, something a little bit more fuller. And then my next 2 things are again purely administrative. So in our office, we've been working on the meeting schedule. So all the various kind of commission meetings and the committee meetings. Crystal and I have proposals for commission and XCOM meetings for next year. We can flash them on the screen now, and then we will then we will share them with you. You can take a closer look. And then the most important thing at this juncture is if you can let us know by next Friday, if you have any conflicts. So we're probably not going to be able to accommodate everybody's schedule, but like, for instance, if we have, I don't like to keep it so close to quorum, but we have like quorum plus like 1 or 2, then we'll probably move forward. And then obviously we'll need either Erica and Amin to chair for XCOM and the commission. So that's where our starting point is. Usually we take that works out, but if there's a meeting that is not hitting quorum or is too close, then we will send it back and we'll have to like resurvey you guys. But Crystal, do you want to share right now? And this is a little bit, we try to really take everything into consideration: board meetings, holidays, which we have the meetings from the Access Commission, but once in a while we do miss things. So there's something that when you look at this is like jumping out at you, like a certain holiday or something that's another conflict, then we'll go back and it's just a lot of meetings that run through the commission. And so we really honestly did the best we could. And again, we'll circulate this, but I don't know if people want to, if there's anything that stands out right now. And again, for the commission Friday meetings, oh, I think there's a typo, Crystal, or not 10 to 4, 12. Sorry, it's
That's right.
sorry, it's just yeah. I was like, that's yeah. And
I
then
think these are all 12. Yeah.
yeah.
We'll just stick
Those are all 12. Sorry, yeah,
it's
those are all
proposed.
12 too.
Thanks.
And we picked Thursdays for our XCOM meeting, but again, if that's a date that doesn't, you know, we can always go back to the drawing board. Okay, Crystal, I think maybe, and then we could just send it out after.
Yeah, I'll fix that, but it's 12 o'clock start date.
Okay. The other thing related to committee assignments, Erica and Amin need to kind of meet and confer and see, we're gonna, you know, move people around and all that stuff. So I think we'll roll back to you all. They're, you know, usually there's a little bit of a shuffle because we have commissioners terming off and new ones coming on. We're not having that, and our officers are staying the same. So there could be, you know, that where there's not that much movement. I know with the committees, like some of them are a little bit thin. Like rules committee, that's something that Erica and I and Catherine have talked about, maybe adding somebody to it. So one other thing to think about is every commissioner now, other than you all, is on like only one committee. It's a lot of work to be on one committee, but some of them are really thin. I don't know if we want to even propose opening it up. So if people are available, they want to join 2 committees. It's just something, food for thought. I don't know if people have an opinion about that now, that you want to share with Erica, and then we can relate to Amin when they do kind of committee assignments. If you have a thought on that, or keeping all the commissioners to one committee, but some of them are very thin.
The other thing and I'll just echo, you know, not to put you all on the spot right now, but if you have thoughts or ideas for either shuffling or, you know, stuff for your committees, please don't hesitate to ping me, ping Amin, you know, offline as well. And sort of our expectation is to have you guys all stay as the chairs of your particular committees. If for some reason there's an issue with that, you can also let us know that. But I think this is a good group, so that's sort of our thinking at the moment. But any issues, just let us know. I know it's a lot of work being on XCOM and a committee chair and all that stuff, so don't want to force anyone into it. Cool.
Catherine, did you
all right.
Yeah, my only comment was
Yeah.
for my committee, like it's sort of understanding the work plan in the year ahead. And because we do a fair amount of work in smaller subcommittees, right? And making sure there's some additional capacity for those subcommittees, so the same people aren't on every subcommittee. So I guess that's what I would keep in mind when we're thinking about that committee.
Yeah.
And sort of what is it we need for a subcommittee in terms of some expertise, I think so.
I mean, the other option is also maybe once Erica and Amin have thought about it, we can like roll back. They can roll back with my help to each of you as committee chairs, and then we can have a little bit of a smaller like meeting about that. That doesn't violate Bagley-Keene in terms of we were doing committee assignments, so we can do that.
And also, I think, you know, somewhat related is for rules committee, we can also, if there's people who aren't necessarily on the rules committee, but might be good for a particular group, we could also kind of solicit, you know, for maybe more of a short term.
It might nicely connect with some of our mentors or expertise that we could use for at least one item, I think. So
yeah,
totally.
that's a great idea.
Okay.
Then my only other update is Crystal and I wanted to come back to you all because I think there was some expressed desire earlier in the year to perhaps think of a commission meeting next year where we don't do in San Francisco or LA, to try to bring it to maybe a part of the state that like we don't usually go to, maybe a rural area, maybe Sacramento, maybe Fresno. I think all those. So Crystal has done some research and we want to share with you. But before she shares that, I will kind of get to the tagline is like, it will be very difficult for us to have a meeting that's not in San Francisco or Los Angeles. cost logistics, and we actually had this issue come up with another of our commissioner. Our office of general counsel has weighed in and said it could potentially be kind of a conflict, say if we get a donated space that's for one of our grantees. So that kind of limits our options. So I would say for those reasons, and before Crystal shares the data with you and the information, I would strongly against having a commission meeting, not in San Francisco or Los Angeles. However, you know, what's worked well, because we did one regional meeting with the grantees in Davis, and they really liked that. So if you all want a forum to kind of like talk to the grantees, interface with them, I think we can build that in, but not maybe at a commission meeting. It's more like grantee facing, and that helps us with like the technology piece and Bagley Keene and so forth. So just one thought, but I'll turn over to Crystal to kind of share.
Sure, thanks, Dawn. Yeah, so we looked in mostly the Sacramento area, and as one, just in addition, for each of the locations, there were sort of associated fees, additional like proofs of insurance that were needed, just a lot of logistics to try to like sort of make a meeting type work for sort of the length of the meeting and the days that we typically meet. So we found about 11 locations. I'll just share screen of some of those spaces, and so some limitations on that end.
Is the Judicial Council, don't they have an office in Sacramento? Is that possible?
I don't think we looked at the Judicial Council space.
I mean, I know they have an office in
Yeah.
Sacramento. What I don't know is their conference room space
We
size.
do have, hi, I'm Nicole, by the way,
Hey, Nicole.
from the Judicial Council. I'll be,
Oh,
at the
terrific.
board meeting.
How handy
Nice
is
to
that?
meet
Nice to
you.
meet you.
We do have a Sacramento office. We have good meeting space there. That's something I can bring up with Melanie. That's where Melanie's based. Some of us are in San Francisco, some of us are in Sacramento. And I know it's a little limited, but I'm sure if we are organizing in advance, I think that could definitely be a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll check in
Yeah.
with Melanie and just check back with us if you have specific
Okay.
dates in mind. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so that probably, if JC, that's probably the most seamless, because they're our partners and we're an arm of the, you know, it's our sister organization. So
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
if they have the technology, because I know in San Francisco at least, it's pretty sophisticated in terms of that. So I don't know what the setup in Sacramento, but Nicole, we can work with you offline.
Yeah. Are you looking for, yes. Why
We
don't
would
you
need
let-
Zoom options and AKA.
Oh yeah. No, we have
and
all
that. Yeah.
we have all that stuff,
Yeah,
and we have
yeah.
AV people there, and it's
Yeah.
just as it's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
the offices have equity in terms of technology. So yeah. I'll let Melanie know that it came up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So are you all okay if we forego any like paid space, and then we will look into the JC space as the like
Yeah,
one
I mean, that's
option
what
that
makes
works?
sense to me.
Okay.
So.
Great. Okay, and that's my my updates. I'll turn it back over to you, Erica.
Great, thank you guys. Okay, let's do our committee updates. So I'll turn it over first to Jason for GES. Sounds like it was a smooth meeting yesterday, so curious to hear what you have.
Thanks, Erica. So I'm going to read this because there's a lot to cover. So hopefully it'll make it easier. So at GES committee yesterday, we advanced several items. That includes approval of 118 IOLTA and EAF grant budgets for 2026. Starting this year, the charter allows us to approve these budgets for the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission's core awards at the committee level. We recommended a slate of 2026 Legal Aid Leaders Fellowship Awards that would fund 122 fellows at 59 organizations. Staff presented multiple award scenarios, and after hearing from Black and others, we recommended the schema that would fund positions for more organizations across the state. These award recommendations will go to the full commission on November 7th. We delegated authority to state bar staff to approve 2026 partnership grant budgets. That's in following with past couple of years, and this year because of timing and the need to do so again. While staff has confirmed that the GES committee has authority per its charter to delegate this authority, delegation will also be on the consent agenda for November 7th. So it's just to ensure transparency between committee and commission at large. We approved late 2024 partnership grant budget deviation and a small number of timely 2025 partnership grant budget modification requests. We approved timely 2024 and 2025 IOLTA and EAF grants, as well as 2025 additional EAF grant budget modification requests. And lastly, we approved the 2025 Care Court grant budgets. And there is one bit of other news that I want to share that wasn't related to the GES committee advancing items, but I just want to flag for the executive committee. On November 7th, staff are going to update the full commission about a monitoring visit in late September that yielded some significant findings. Those findings include, among others, deficiencies in grantees' fiscal governance and internal financial controls that allowed for embezzlement to occur between mid-2023 and early 2024. This was during a time of executive transition. Findings also include a failure to notify the State Bar and Trust Fund Commission about the thefts, even though the grantee's multiple agreements with us required it to do so. Shortly after those findings arose, staff conferred with me and others to determine how best to update the GES committee, XCOM, and the full commission, given the timing of the visit, timing of the grantee's response to staff's findings, and GES committees and Legal Services Trust Fund Commission's meeting calendars. We determined to bring this issue directly to the full Legal Services Trust Fund Commission on November 7th. Staff will post its recommendations later today and has been updating the grantee about these decisions as appropriate. So we're trying our best to keep the grantee informed and aware of how things are transpiring so that they are not blindsided. We're not showing up at the full commission with like, hey, this is news, you didn't know about it. As we identified these findings, and this is what was the reference discussion, we talked through like how do we transparently engage with the grantee about the level of notice and sharing of information, while also giving them ample opportunity to fully respond prior to any formal action being taken. So trying to get information out when it's important, but not necessarily foreclose someone's ability to engage in the responsive process to provide their perspective in all of this. Trying to do our best to incorporate all of those concerns, given timing of meetings don't always allow for timely responsiveness for all of this stuff. And that's the end of my update.
Thanks, Jason. It looks like we have a couple hands raised. So Nicole.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Since this is my first meeting, I just wondered, would you mind just clarifying that this was a monitoring visit to one of the grantees of I'm learning my way around the difference between the IOLTA funding and all of those things. So would you mind if you could just let me know the grantee is under which funding stream, or do we know? And that might be too granular.
I believe they have multiple agreements, so they might be receiving from multiple.
Okay.
I can help with that. So,
okay, go ahead, Dawn.
Yeah, so Nicole, for your purposes, one of them is the Equal Access Fund grants, which does go through the Judicial Council. I have notified Melanie and to give her a heads up that this is happening. And I guess the other thing I wanted to say, because I know like there's a couple commissioners on the executive committee that's not going to be there next Friday. The materials that's going to be posted later today includes a staff memo with a recommendation of how to handle eligibility for 2026. It also includes the monitoring report itself that we sent to, and the response from the grantee to that monitoring visit. So that's your full docket. So if you can attend and you have thoughts, even though you won't be able to vote, you're welcome to share that with me and Erica, and then we can perhaps share that if you feel comfortable with what you think, if that's something that you would like to do during the commission meeting to kind of weigh in that way, because this is it's a fairly important agenda item, and this is one of the reasons why we think the full commission should hear about it, and because of the expedited kind of timeline, that's why it kind of leaped over the committee level. So we hope that's okay with everybody.
Thanks, Dawn. Selena, and then Patience.
I know this will be posted later, and I'll read the memo. I always do as soon as I post it, but I would imagine one of the questions from other grantees is how this was discovered. And so when this becomes part of a public meeting and public materials, everyone's going to read it. It would be good for the community to know whether this was an auditor finding, whether this was the new executive director found, because with so much executive director transition, I think we need some safeguards in place so it doesn't happen again at another organization in transition.
So you will see that. I can answer that preemptively right now. It was discovered during testing and our monitoring visit. That's how we found out about it. And you know, I've already kind of talked over with our grants leadership is maybe something we could do as a little bit more preventative measure for our grantees, some type of training next year or something about fraud prevention or how to report, maybe reminding them there's this provision in our grant agreement that you need to tell us within 5 days. So there's a little bit more proactiveness that we can do. I think the commission and the staff, that's where we're kind of talking through strategy right now. But yes, that will all be obvious in the docket of material.
But the organization had discovered it before you
Yeah,
did
they knew
the
about it in
monitoring
2023.
visit.
Yeah, it wasn't
Right.
that we didn't discover it. It just wasn't disclosed to us.
It wasn't disclosed, so they
Exactly.
found it in the monitoring
Exactly.
visit. But I think Selena's question was, how did the organization
Oh,
discover
okay.
it?
Yeah, it'll be obvious. Again, it's a pretty detailed, but the commission, I mean, sorry, their interim ED saw some odd transactions, and it was discovered fairly after they had access to it, and there's a lot more details there. But if you review it, it'll all be there. It's laid out in I think in a very nice, succinct way.
Patience?
So yesterday, we approved IALTA EAF allocation amounts. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I don't know if it makes sense to me that we would have done that without knowing all the details, because all the details weren't available. And I'm completely okay with revisiting it on Friday. But I'm asking, are we revisiting on Friday what we did yesterday?
Yes, I mean it's a different like we bifurcated, and this is the difficulty when you all went to vote on eligibility, because you vote on eligibility in August. We didn't know that this happened, and then when you vote for eligibility, then staff spends the next couple months looking at the budgets, and that's what you were approved. So it's two different processes. But yes, you are going to be revisiting eligibility for 2026 in full for this program in next week.
Thank you. Thanks for thinking through this so carefully, and I feel really, I have a lot of confidence in the integrity of the process and appreciate it.
Yeah, and I will say, because I've had conversations with our commission leadership and state bar leadership, this really is the foundational work that the commission does and the staff supports. And then this is it shows that our monitoring and our compliance work is working in a way. And with this many grantees, unfortunately, it's not uncommon for it to happen here and there. And so what do we learn from this, and how, what do we do? What can we do better? And you'll hear some ideas about what we can do better in terms of just strengthening even our compliance and our monitoring of programs next week, and a different agenda item.
And did this appear in their annual audit?
It was not, yeah.
Because it happened before it was discovered,
It was
or
alleged that they had shared it with their auditors, and their auditors made a decision to not include it.
oof, that's a different problem.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And I will also extend my gratitude to the staff, because I think they've done a really good job of both communicating with the grantee at issue, keeping at least me in the loop on what's going on, and I think Jason as well. And I think we have really tried to give them, the grantee, an opportunity. And I also appreciate, which I think you will see in the memo that's posted, a lot of creativity on behalf of the staff in thinking through a way to go forward on this. And I have my own particular opinions on this issue, which I will happily share next week. But we'll see how the commission goes. Okay, let's go now to, unless Jason, you have anything else, I think we'll switch over to PDI and the update from Judge Rossi.
Here,
Sorry, I was muted and I couldn't unmute myself. Okay, everyone can hear me now, right? Okay, so PDI committee met not that long ago, October 24th. As I said earlier, it was a 3-hour meeting. We just barely got through it. But the first thing that we did is the PDI committee had been working on the Cal HFA 2 funding recommendations. We had posted those before our meeting. And we received public comment both in written form prior to the meeting and oral public comment from quite a few folks during the meeting. And based on that public comment and what we heard, Commissioner Aaron Smith and I, who were on the funding team along with State Bar staff, we decided to go back and take another look at our funding recommendations and the list of grantees. So we actually included additional grantees in our list that we had the PDI committee vote on that day. The other thing, because we added 2 additional grantees, that meant we had to rethink the funding recommendations themselves. So Aaron and I, along with State Bar staff, have gone over and are still going over and hope to post later today the funding, the actual funding recommendations. But the PDI committee did vote on the slate of grantees with the understanding that next Friday, when the full commission meets, that at that time we'll present obviously the same list of grantees, but we will also include the actual funding recommendations for each of the grantees. And off the top of my head, and Dwan, maybe you know, now I can't remember how many actual grantees we are funding.
19, I believe.
Does that include the sub-grant as well?
That doesn't include the sub-grant as well. Yeah.
But most importantly for everyone to know is that we are funding organizations in every county in the state. So we made sure, and again, I can't thank State Bar staff enough for how hard they worked on this. And Aaron, who also, as I said, was on the scoring team, we spent a lot of time and put a lot of thought into the recommendations that will be posted later today. So please take a look at that. And of course, Aaron and I will be there next week if you have questions about how we got to where we got. But the highlight is that there are 20 or so folks, and every county is going to be touched. So that was the first thing we did. And then, as many of you probably remember or are working on in other groups, in December of 2024, a group of IOLTA grantees and LAC published a proposal to establish a statewide community justice worker program. At the October 24th meeting, the PDI committee discussed and recommended that the Trust Fund Commission, the full commission, support the proposal and the author's efforts to establish a statewide program. We also, the committee also approved the letter that that actually Aaron and I, along with Jennifer Zelnick, worked on, which provided feedback to the to the authors of the proposal. So we'll be sharing that letter along with the author's response to that letter, and that'll be part of your materials for next week's meeting as well. And of course, this is an ongoing process. We made 8 recommendations to the authors, and some of them they've already responded to. So please take a look at that, as we spent quite a bit of time on that as well. We also discussed and recommended that the Trust Fund Commission approve a work plan for the Legal Aid Justice Tech Collaborative. That work plan outlines the group's goals and deliverables, I think from May of 2025 through May of 2027. So look for that as well. We received updates from staff on the post-election thought partnership work that we are doing with grantees. detailing the impact of ongoing and impending funding cuts, which we've already heard a little bit about, and how we can increase donations to legal aid and the Justice Gap Fund through side-prey awards in class action litigation. And then at the end, staff sought volunteers to provide feedback on the partnership grant programs and potentially propose some edits to the RFP for the 2027 funding. And the committee plans to discuss that or any potential changes to that RFP in early 2026. And I think that's everything we did. And I am happy to answer questions if folks have questions. But it was a long and exhausting meeting. Thank you, Selena, for being there and sticking it out, and Juan as well. We covered a lot. We covered a lot. We covered a lot. A lot of really good, a lot of good communication from commissioners and from the public. And I think we were really responsive to the public comment, or at least tried to be. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Judge Orsi. I don't see any
Sure.
hands raised, but very much appreciate you guys and the hard work you're doing on that. And I apologize, there's some background noise in my area. I think we move now to 4.1, which is approving the minutes.
Sorry,
Does
Erica, I
anyone
think
have
there's
any-
a rules committee.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, Catherine. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I totally jumped over.
No,
Yes, Catherine,
no
please,
worry.
Rules Committee. I apologize. We were just together too.
No need to apologize at all. So we had a meeting on Wednesday, so earlier this week. The committee approved 2 items, the policy on purchase or et cetera of real property and investment policies. And those were unanimously passed. Not a lot of discussion about them, but some attention to a comment we received that morning. So that was great. We also then looked at the statement of functional expenses and audit extension questions, because those come up frequently, and State Bar staff did a great job of drafting a policy for our consideration. There wasn't any concern about that, but we midstream lost a quorum. So we were not able to vote on that. So that will go directly to the commission at the November 7th meeting. The intention is to try and get that passed so that it could then be in place for the 2027 grant cycle, which would be really helpful. And the staff did this work with us knowing that because there just wasn't time to have the committee or work group be involved in it. It was, I thought, really thoughtful, and I think LAC also approved of the approach. So I think it's in a good place to be voted on by the full committee. And then just flagging that there are some other topics that either the current committee or the prior committee did that are going to the Board of Trustees. We're recommended for adoption by the Board of Trustees, which is the State Bar grant expenditure deductions on the annual interest on lawyer trust accounts and equal access funds, unspent and unrelinquished grant funds, audited review financial statement, grant award reductions or terminations, carryover budget modifications, other expenditure deductions such as pass-through funds, the definition of fiscal standards and internal controls, and expectations related to monitoring visit outcomes. And the State Bar staff will present on behalf of the commission at the Board of Trustees meeting for the approval of those. Erica Connolly also offered to attend if needed to demonstrate the commission's support for that. So that's also happening. And then we discussed a tentative work plan for the next year. And we'll, I think, look at that at our next meeting, which will not be till next year. The other thing that we did was we have been working group has been working on a set of support staff rule changes. Originally, those were going to the meeting this week. They did not, because we received a lot of comment from support centers, which was great, but there wasn't really time given the deadline for submitting those. and the meeting date to even think about them, really. So the plan is that the working group will have a meeting before the end of the year. And the intention is to have some additional focus groups with support centers. And then we will have a dedicated meeting after the first of the year to take up the support center rules. So that is our plan for those. And that's it.
Any questions or comments on the rules committee stuff? Okay, seeing none, now we can move to approving the minutes from the last meeting. Anyone have any comments or questions in the minutes?
Oh, Catherine moves approval.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Judge Rosie.
All
Take
right,
our vote.
we'll do. Blakemore,
Yes.
Belkin,
Yes.
Judge Rosie,
Yes.
Escobedo,
Yes.
Milrod,
Yes.
Ulseraff. I'm absent, and then Connolly.
Yes.
Right, that's 6 yeses, 0 no's, motion passes.
Great. Okay, also, I did want to just add one comment to Catherine's point on all the rules that are going to the Board of Trustees. I did want to like extend my gratitude to Jason and Catherine and the staff. Those are a lot of like really intense rules that that are going to structure like how the expectations for our grantees and how added transparency on that. So many thanks that those are going to get hopefully approved by the BOT, not have any issues with yeah, and then we'll have sort of very clear rules. So anyway, thank you on that. All right, now we're going to get into the business of our meeting, and we'll start with our audit presentation, and I think Joyce is going to be handling that.
Do you guys promote Joyce?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Halloween. Hope you're all doing well. I'm a program director with the office, and I'm going to share with you the results of the 3 audits that our office, our Legal Services Trust Fund, and the Commission were subject to in 2024. I think the audits were made available in the meeting minute materials. They're also publicly available, just so you know, on the State Bar website on the reports page. The key takeaway is that our independent accounting firm, Messias, Ginny & O'Connell, had no findings across all 3 audits, so that's excellent news. You may already be familiar with all 3 of these audits, but I'll just take a moment to kind of reacquaint you briefly on all 3 of them.
Joyce, can I just jump in for a quick second? And I just want to talk about how we've done the audits historically. We used to post it on at the commission level, and then you all would have a chance to access it and ask questions. But in the redoing the charges for the executive committee and all of the committees, we built this in specifically for XCOM, so you all could take a closer look at it and let us know. I mean, this is a little bit different this year. Let us know if like once you hear Joyce's presentation, if you want something more fuller for next year or for this year, then we can build this in. But this is like kind of a first for us to do it at committee level.
Yeah, absolutely. So in no particular order, the first audit is the Legal Services Trust Fund report under Business and Professions Code section 6222. It's essentially an operating statement, and it covers the receipt of funds into our Legal Services Trust Fund, as well as our expenditures for admin costs and disbursements of funds that are presented on a county by county basis. Pretty comprehensive report. It's actually, like I mentioned, NGO found that we were in compliance with the Business and Professions Code, that there were no findings. It has actually been presented to the Audit Committee of the Board of Trustees. It was presented in their quarterly meeting, their Q2 meeting in May. And it was filed with the Supreme Court and the state legislature by the deadline of May 31. So it has already been approved, signed, and submitted as required by statute. I'll just go through all 3, and then if you want to, I'll dive into each of them afterwards. We can do that. The second audit is our Legal Services Trust Fund Commission grant audit under Business and Professions Code 6210.5G. This statute, or this section, requires us to perform an audit to ensure the grant awards made by the commission are consistent with our statute, rules, and other governing authorities. So for the purposes of this audit, MGO looked at, representative samples from IOLTA and EAF grants. They looked at the pro bono allocations, and then they looked at discretionary grants. And across each of these categories, they looked at various aspects around, say, for example, and you'll see this in the actual audit, eligibility or the award allocations, were things submitted on time, sort of a various list of things to kind of test to ensure that we were complying. And like I mentioned, we were in compliance. They found no exceptions as a result of applying their procedures. This audit was also presented to the audit committee and to the board of trustees. It's, I think, a fairly new audit. I think it was due to an amendment to the code section in January 2023.
Yeah.
Both
Joyce, can I just clarify one thing about who the we is and that what
Sure.
Joyce just said? So that audit for 6210, this is when the commission got codified a few years ago. So the we there is the state bar actually is auditing the trust fund commission, not the commission auditing itself.
Sorry, yeah. Thanks, Dawn. And then finally, we have our federal audit. So for 2024, we were subject to the single audit, which is required under Title II of the Code of Federal Regulations, which requires non-federal entities that are spending over a specific threshold in a fiscal year to report out on their federal disbursements of federal dollars. For 2024, that threshold was $750,000, and we exceeded that threshold through our disbursements of our HP and CalHFA grants. And MGO also performed that audit and found that we were in accordance with the Code of Federal Regulations. No findings there as well. Great news. No identified deficiencies in our internal controls. This was also submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse before their deadline of, I believe it was September 30th of this year. So all clear and good. For next year, I will say we are not going to be subject to the single audit because we will not hit their threshold, which for 2025 is actually $1 million. And because our federal grants are winding down, we won't, we're projecting that we will not have to undergo the single audit. We will be performing the other two audits as scheduled.
Thanks, Joyce. Any questions or comments? I will say first off, oh, sorry, Catherine, go ahead. I see your hand now.
That's okay. I was just first, congratulations, and I had just two questions. So when you did the risk assessment, I noticed, so there's this list of things they evaluated. Were those also the risk assessment factors? I'm just trying to understand how the 22 grantees were selected and what the quote risk factors were.
Are you talking about
the second audit?
The second audit, the subrecipient monitoring.
So that they tested. So they worked with our state bar staff, myself, Crystal was involved in that, and they randomly selected certain grants and certain like I don't know if that's what you're asking that piece.
Well, it just says this. Yeah, the selection was based on the total risk score for each subrecipient. So I assume there's factors.
Yeah, there's factors.
And I was trying to understand if those factors were the same things that are bulleted, the submission compliance, grant eligibility,
yeah, I mean, one of the factors was like federal funds, like that's like a little bit of a higher threshold. So they gave us, I can't remember exactly, Crystal might know, like ratings for each of our grants, and then like risk assessment profiles based on our desk review audits of grantees, and then they select. So it's all based on our information, and they come back and they give us, and then they start pooling and testing.
Okay, so thanks for that. And then I guess my other question, so I understand this is the state bar's audit of the trust fund and that you took this in, I think, May to them, but now it's like October. So I'm just trying to understand like why we're hearing about it in October when the work was done in May and it was already approved. It's like, is there a way that we can learn about it earlier? I guess that feels like maybe something that should happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the type of feedback that we'd love from you all. Like, do we, as a general rule, build it in? That would be like maybe for the summer XCOM meeting, so it's a little bit closer in time. Like, those are all things. Like, again, we'd love your feedback. I have to say, with this audit, because it's a new audit requirement, it did take a little bit of time to kind of get up to gear. So if you kind of read the report itself, what we remitted to the like the legislature, we had to bundle up a couple years moving forward to kind of meet now the statutory, and now we're on pace to kind of meet kind of the deadlines, and they understand that it was a little bit of time for us. Like it took 2 years for us to kind of develop a process and work with MGO. But yeah, if the cadence, if it feels like this October, November timeframe feels a little bit too like far in time, then we could be maybe on a closer cadence to what the board is, and so we build it in to say.
I think so. It's maybe
Yeah,
closer to when we
closer.
presented the audit committee of the Board of Trustees. So whether that's right before, I mean, we would be able to provide the final report after they sign off on it in their Q2 meeting. So maybe we can do it in the same, depending on how our meetings align.
That'd be great.
I guess I have sort of a related question, which is, it sounds like the Board of Trustees, like the audit committee, has to sign off on it, but we don't.
No, you don't, because you're a sub entity. Our sub, and you know, we're unique in that our other, I guess the Office of Admissions might have its own audit that I can't speak to, but generally speaking, our other offices don't get audited separately. You all have, because we have a lot of money that runs through our office, you see we have statutory requirements, sometimes with the federal funds that triggered the single audit, but that's done at the board level. They're the ones that approve kind of the audit for the state bar, and they approve our audit. You all don't approve at the commission level. It gets reported back to you.
I guess I'm wondering whether it's possible to share it with us before it goes to the Board of Trustees so that we can see, even if we don't prove it, it would be nice, I think, for us to be aware if there were issues before the Board of Trustees and the audit committee knows about it, because
that's a good point.
I just, to Catherine's point, it's great, and congratulations again on like the clean bill, and that's what I expect. But if something came up, I sure would like us to know before it goes public up chain. Just so this way we can. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about is like, if our grantees have issues, we like them to come to us and give us a plan for how they're going to fix whatever the issue is. And I think it would be useful, maybe going forward, if we could possibly get some insight into it before it goes.
No, absolutely. So I'm wondering, then it's not the summertime, then Joyce, it might be the first XCOM meeting, because we're already working on like right now the next year's
so
stuff.
Let me explore that too, because I think that's not going to be as much of an issue on our grants audit for the 6210.5 audit. The other one is bundled up with our state bar wide financial statements. So I don't know the timing of that. I don't know how far along they get to before they present it before the audit committee. So that one I just need to check in on in terms of the timing, but I hear your point. And certainly I feel like for the 6210.5, we could probably get you a draft, at least, a watermark draft for you to all look at before it gets to the audit.
And I think that's the one that we're most interested in. I mean, I can imagine next year that one of the grantees selected will be the grantee that failed to report the fraud. And so we would know about that because we've just been informed, but there could be other things that happen similar to that. And it would be nice for us, I think, to be able to kind of have an explanation for what we've been doing, right? And before it goes to the Board of Trustees. So that I agree with Erica.
So the other thing we can do, even if it's not ready, Joyce, I think, and then we have to explore this, is for the one that's bundled with the state bar, we can always just give you an update on where we are in the timing. So we'll Joyce and I can work with our Office of Finance to figure out like the timing of that. But if it's like not ready, we can give you an oral update. And if the 6210 one is ready, then maybe that can be posted as a draft.
Yeah, it looks like we have a meeting on April 30th next year. So maybe that works.
We should be free and clear by April 30th, I guess.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be, I understand that maybe you don't want the written materials going live until they're like final, but it would be helpful, I think, to at least have an update, just so that if there's any issues, we know about them before.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
But congratulations on the clean audits. Like,
congratulations to you all.
Yeah, well, I think this is really a great marker of how well you guys have, administered our grants, kept up on everything, and done a great job of engaging in oversight with the grantees, even as you also provide a lot of help to them. So,
Well, thank you. And then
congratulations
Joyce
on
is
that.
leading all the audit stuff with our staff. And I have to say, you know, for all of you that have come from organizations that do audits, sometimes we have some of these audits are happening concurrently. So you can imagine the amount of like information we have to pull for the auditors to be responsive. So really Joyce and her team have done a really excellent job at this. And Crystal has helped out tremendously on all of these audits.
Good job, Joyce.
Yeah.
Nothing like
And
the
look, we
24-hour window to pull every document the auditor wants to load and upload it to their system.
Yeah.
and also just, I mean, we've had, I think, very clean audits over the past few years, even as we've grown and the amount of money that we are administering has really grown. And so very big kudos to staff and the commission and like keeping that all clean. So thank you guys very much for the really hard work. Okay. Any other comments or questions on the audit stuff?
I would have a follow-up on in terms of direction for our the commission,
Sure.
like the level of in terms of should this be shared out at a commission level? Like, would you like us to?
Couldn't the executive committee just
Oh, you
report
can
it
just share a
out?
report out as part of that's
Yeah.
What I would do, I
okay.
think, on some high level. I mean, anyway, I don't know. Whatever you all want to do.
And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially since it's clean. I think we could just do a like very like they provide us with details. It's all clean.
Okay.
Great job, guys.
Right.
If it was something more
Yeah.
problematic, then maybe we need more detail. But if that's okay with everybody, just report it out. Cool. Thank you for sharing all that information with us, and thank you, Joyce, for heading that up. Should we move now to 5.2? I think Crystal's going to give us an update on our advisory panel.
Sure. So just following up, I think from an earlier meeting, let me share screen. So Steph and I, we have been looking at sort of all of the past Legal Services Trust Fund Commission rosters and compiled a couple of information points. Just as a reminder, per the XCOM's charter, I pulled an excerpt from here. The advisory panel consisting of emeritus commissioner shall assist the executive committee, and then advisory panel members shall be appointed by the commission chairs. So we went back according to sort of our records, which I think dated back to 2003, to start pulling in the different members who have been on the commission, tracking which years they served, whether or not they were a commission, and if available, a committee chair. I wanted to get some feedback from the from you all if this is information you're looking for, if there's additional information that you might want to include. We included some major projects, but I think like our timeline of, I don't know if we have anyone who goes back to 2003 in terms of major projects that had happened. So we're hoping that by including the years that they served, it might be informative if we wanted to know sort of a major development that had happened maybe prior to our times in the office. Contact information if available, pulling in just bios. Some of these folks, it's over 20 years, so we're just trying to find as much updated information while also pulling from sort of the available information we have in our records. Yeah, I'll skim, and then I think Ron, this is something I can circulate after the meeting as well. So I don't know if there's any initial feedback. Erica.
So I just have one question, and you don't necessarily need to put it in this space, but do we have like contact information, like, or can we at least mark whether we have contact information?
Yeah, but it spans a little bit further. So this is the caveat is like it's according to either what we found on SABR website or like the roster, so it could be outdated, but we're pulling what we have of what's available. Yeah.
Never knew that Ruthie Ashley was on the commission. I can give you her contact info if you don't already have it.
We're slightly we're finalizing it, but if you have a quickly at your fingertips, happy to add that in.
I'll shoot an email right now.
And then I'm trying to recall whether is the plan now, once we sort of have that information, to reach out to folks and see if they want to participate, or I'm trying to remember. I just can't remember what our next steps were. If we actually do anything more.
Duan, do you recall? I know
Oh
we were
yeah,
asking.
I do recall. Yeah. So the next step, if you all kind of approve this as a level of information, is that Crystal and I would reach back out to them and say that we're formulating an advisory panel that may be helping with, and we'll list a couple things like scoring, being advisors to certain topics that the commission is engaging in. If you'd like to opt in and receive the email, then we will include you in communications, something along those lines.
Sounds great. This looks great. My only suggestion is just because there's contact information on it, we not publicly post
Oh,
it,
yeah.
unless we like redact some of it.
Of course.
But otherwise, yeah, I think it's awesome. And I'm really, thank you guys for doing the work on collecting all of that. I think it's nice to just have people that we can go back to as needed for institutional knowledge who, if they're up for it.
So just a quick
Catherine?
question. So great list. Thank you for all the work on pulling this together. So I understand how people could be used. They could be added, for example, to a committee or a working group, maybe something like that. So then do you work with the chair of that committee about ideas of who should be added, right? And have that discussion with the chair of that committee? Great.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
hoping once we have that list, then we can share with the respective chairs and see how you all want to utilize some of these members, and then we can help facilitate those those communications and
All right.
requests.
Thanks so much.
Screen. Thank you.
I also think this is going to sound kooky, but maybe in some of our in-person meetings, we could have like a reunion, like dinner or something. And if people, who are sort of alums want to come and socialize, that might be something just more collegial as well, because that can also be an opportunity to kind of brainstorm on like different things where they might be able to contribute. But that's a longer term thought. Anything else on this one, Crystal?
No, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, why don't we turn to the February 2026 work plan. And Duan, I'll give that over to you.
Yeah, and Crystal and Joyce and I are going to help with the planning of this. So, and that's actually, Erica, what you said previously is a perfect segue. So, as you all recall, so last February, we've been doing this now for a couple of years. Our February meetings are planning for the year. Last year, we talked about the strategic plan and the charters, and there was some feedback about maybe some of the program felt as if too much information being presented at the commission instead of some more engagement. So we kind of love your feedback on like how to shape this. It could be if you have feedback now, or perhaps there's like one or two commissioners that want to work directly with Crystal and Joyce and myself for the planning of the February meeting, just because it's going to be different. There'll probably be some business items that we need to take care of, but we're really trying to trim down the business items and have the majority of it be a space where you all first connect in person, but really think about like, what does the commission want to do this year and in the next couple of years to kind of achieve what it wants to achieve?
Helena?
I had an offer I was going to email to Duan, but I will run it by you all first. I've been talking with a lot of elders in our community about the history of legal services funding, the history of federal funding, the history of IOLTA, why IOLTA is so important. And I thought it might be nice for commissioners either at the February meeting or a future meeting to have like a 15 minutes, like here's what happened to LSC in the 80s. Here is why IOLTA organizations, the funding was created. Here's the history of the Equal Access Fund. I personally find it very inspiring, and I think commissioners could be inspired too, because it's the funding that you distribute that people just like us created 20 and 40 and 60 years ago. So I was going to offer it, and I was going to ask a few people like Jose Padilla to do a presentation, but it doesn't have to be at February, and it could be brief just to make commissioners feel really good about the work you do.
I think that sounds like a lovely idea. I would support having a small, like a 15, 20-minute kind of thing, and maybe some Q&A opportunities as well.
Yeah, we did that. We rolled that into COAF as part of the onboarding because there were so many people, and myself included, who did not have any idea, like the rich history. And so, and to what Selena just said, like the fact that Ruthie was on the Trust Fund Commission, like, knowing who's been here before, and seeing how we got there, I think is really valuable. And it makes you feel good about, if you know your history, it helps you shape where you're moving to. So I love that. Let's do.
I saw both Ephraim and Catherine come off mute, so I don't know whether you guys had additional comments as well.
I was going to say what you said.
the idea.
Great.
I guess I really love this
Yep.
idea. Thank you, Selena. And I want to add, it can help us refocus on our mission. A lot of times we're like just like this, like legal aid back in the day was a model for nonviolent revolution. I don't want us to forget that.
Yep.
Really important. So thank you.
So I will put myself up as a volunteer to help with planning this. I have some ideas. I'd love to put our commissioners in small groups and be like, come up with one, nothing that we necessarily have to approve, but as a brainstorming, like, what's one piece of legislation you'd love to see, that would help us, or like, what's one thing, one sort of private sector outreach, whatever. We can come up with different categories, but basically like have people chit chat and talk and think through like from their different perspectives in these small groups. And like some of that can be, about commission stuff, and some of it can also just be like kind of personal and getting to know each other. And I know it has to be an open meeting and we'll have all this stuff around, and that's fine. But I also don't think it's going to be full on like decision making stuff, more like sharing ideas and like how we want to move forward. So I'm happy to volunteer for that. I don't know if other folks, if there's anyone else who wants to do it.
So if you need me, I'm happy to join. I'm one of the people that was suggesting we find ways to engage people, because I think it's really our chance to come together as a commission. And I really value those in-person meetings as an opportunity for people to not only discuss things, but just get to talk to people in ways that you can't do even if you're in person at a meeting, and particularly not on Zoom. And I guess I would just hope we can find a way to encourage people to all come to be in person, to the extent they can do that. But
yeah, we've also talked about, and we'll run this by OGC and stuff, but for folks who travel in maybe the night before, is maybe doing a dinner, sort of the evening before, so people can, that's not about business exactly, but it's just more an opportunity for us to kind of also socialize. So.
And you don't need to check with OGC. That is like allowable. The board regular goes to a dinner. I can't remember if it's before their board meeting or after their board meeting. We just can't talk about anything that's decision making. That's the one parameter, because of bad looking. But everything else is people. I think this is where COAF does do a really great job, and Judge Rosie can share. I mean, there's a lot of connection there when you get to know somebody on that kind of human level, and what they're doing in their day job and what's brought them like to the commission and the state bar and so forth. So that helps.
Awesome. I think that'd be great. Patience?
I'm assuming this is already on the agenda or already part of this, like what are we going to do next year? Looking at the strategic plan we developed 2 years ago. So I know we've done a bunch of those things, but it'd be great to sort of look at it and just see, do we want to change anything? Congratulate ourselves for what we've done already and all that. So I'm assuming that's on the list anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were planning on, as we should, revisit our strategic plan and what we've laid out in the work plan, and if there are any modifications or things to add to it.
Yeah, I also think by February of next year. So yes, the feds have dropped the rates, but my read of the last readout from the Fed was that there's a lot of disagreement
Mhm.
among the like board of governors. So I think there's a lot of unpredictability in that space as one of our main funding sources. So I think this is an opportunity, this meeting in February is an opportunity for us to kind of put a lot of very smart heads together to think about how we can provide as much predictability and stability to our grantees. Yeah, Catherine.
I think the other thing I guess I'm curious about is, when we do those projections, we talk about what's happening with interest rates, but we have been fortunate because there's been these large amounts on deposit. And I also know that the trust fund has started, I mean, not the trust fund, the bar has started its audit process of trust accounts, and whether all the money, I'm guessing, belongs in a trust account or whether it's more segregable, and it's sort of understanding that trend, I think, and a discussion
Good
about
point.
what does that mean would be really helpful, I think.
A good point.
And I just had a related point to that in terms of IOLTA and revenue, because so much of the work we do is based around IOLTA revenue. What we can do is, again, we can interface with our IOLTA revenue. It gets collected in a different office, but again, we can get some trends there. Maybe perhaps we can invite the head of that office over to talk. We also work with a national consultant, Steve Casey, who advises a lot of IOLTA programs, and he's somebody that we rely on. We have our own kind of tracking mechanisms and things that we look to, but he helps a lot of states kind of figure out how to, so we can invite him if he's available. If you all want to kind of talk to him, and it's not combing through staff, and he has a lot of expertise, we could do that. The other thing to think about, maybe whoever's on the working group, if you all want to hear about what's happening nationally. So Catherine and I and some of our staff, we were at a conference, I can't even remember, last week or the week before in Atlanta. It was the ABA IOLTA conference. So our office is actually, we do a lot of work with other states, other IOLTA programs. We share information. We think about leadership rate programs. We think about interest rates. But if you want to just hear about trends, and I'll have to tell you, it's actually not that great in other states, because there are a lot of things happening, and I'll do a short report on that at the commission level. But there are other states with IOLTA programs where the funding is being overtaken either by the legislature or has been frozen completely. So you all can kind of hear about that. I mean, we're in a way a vanguard for other states are following. I mean, but if it's helpful, that's also something that we can build into for next year, but around more IOLTA interest rates related issues.
There's also some wonky main case about kind of revisiting the whole idea of IOLTA, and I don't know what's going to happen with the main case, but it was the only of the 3 cases pending that sort of alarmed me, I guess. So,
as in what authority the state has to, is it that kind of a case?
It's that, yeah, it's underlying, it's a threat attacking IOLTA itself, and whether there's jurisdiction to have.
I think in this case it was a free speech case, so it wasn't like the case that was brought before about, nobody had a property interest, at least as I understood it, but kind of a free speech bent on it. And there was not a lot of information provided, so I can't really speak to the specifics of it, but it's, I think, good to understand what is California doing well and what are the potential risks. And maybe there's some discussion that could happen, there could be a panel discussion about that, and then maybe some opportunities for people to ask questions or think in small groups about it. I don't know, whatever that structure ends up looking like, but I feel like the things are so uncertain about what's next to be under attack, that having some information about where things are nationally is helpful.
And related to that, Cypre, I know Selena works with outside counsel, who then provides us through Selena kind of information that's tracking what's happening with Cypre litigation and happening. So that maybe perhaps can be one panel.
Yeah, folded into
litigation
that
risk.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's very interesting and very thoughtful. Yeah. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of
should we talk about any of that publicly? Yeah.
Yeah, I was sort of maybe we need a little closed session on some of the more like what potential legal challenges could come up and how we would respond to them. But again, as part of the planning, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing to do, right? Is to do, if we need to, a closed session to update on litigation and challenges that we could face. We obviously need some counsel from OGC, but I think that might be valuable given everything.
No, that's great. No, these are really, really wonderful ideas. So, Erica, we can count on you, and then Catherine, if you'd like to join. Anybody else that wants to join, even little or even just give us feedback over email, things you think of, then just pass them along to either myself or Joyce or Crystal.
Yep, happy to
And
join.
obviously, and if you have fun icebreakers that are not too painful, please let us know. Okay. Awesome. Okay, well, then I think we're on to our last agenda item, which is discussing the next meeting.
So I'm not going to go through all the agenda because you already heard it from the committee reports. So the one thing I will say is it's a packed agenda like it always is, but we actually purposely built in the compliance issue with the support center as the last agenda item of the day. And Erica and Amina and I met yesterday and kind of strategized. We're going to try to go through everything the first 3 hours and leave a good hour and 15 minutes for that discussion. However, it's a little bit unpredictable on how much the commission is going to discuss, whether they're going to be ready to make a decision at the end of that hour. So our backup plan is if we are not getting close to it, then what we will do is either have another commission meeting or delegate authority to a subgroup. And my strong recommendation, because this one is a high profile compliance issue, is to roll back to the full commission. But at your fingertips, we can also delegate it either back to XCOM or subcommittee, though that's not what I would recommend.
Is there a deadline for approving the recommendation?
I mean, the deadline, because grants start January 1st, so we really should. Ideally, it would be great to get to a resolution next week, and if not, then we should call a meeting early December.
Right, which I think in the past has just caused quorum problems, right? And so I guess as you're thinking about trying to schedule a full commission meeting versus delegating it to the executive committee, which is still an open meeting that other people can attend. Just think about what does the past tell us about the future in that extra meeting? And then one person doesn't show up while you're all there, and then we have a different problem.
So maybe that is the middle ground, executive. It's not a group of 2 working group, but it's
I just send it to this committee, which I think that's probably where it makes sense. And
I actually think, and everyone will get a chance to see the recommendation, but I think the way the staff has structured the recommendation will lead us. I have more confidence than I did that we will get to a resolution next week. I think the staff has, I think staff has thought very creatively, and really the big question is, do you want to find them? Should we change course on their eligibility? And if not, then I think staff has come up with very good way to protect the funds while still dealing with that. And that is possible that we could go round and round on that first fundamental question, but I think there's a way to get there. So I have more confidence we can finish it next week.
Can I just ask one
but
question?
If not, I agree, XCOM.
Yeah. I'm just on the question of eligibility, so let's assume there's a discussion about that. What would the auditors of our funds say about, would they have an opinion about the appropriateness or inappropriateness of the program's eligibility? And do you want to know what that opinion is? You may or may not in advance, but I sort of feel like they're going to come audit us. It's going to be front and center next year. And rather than us be surprised and have them tell us we made the wrong call, that maybe a discussion with them would be helpful.
So we have not had the discussion, but I do think that's a wonderful idea. Perhaps Joyce and I can reach out to MGO, and
that'd be great. I just feel like I'd rather know that now than have this issue continue and cause the trust fund commission
Yeah.
problems next year. And
Yeah.
to be able to say you consulted with the auditors and they're fine with this approach, I think is also persuasive. I don't know, I haven't read the memo, so whatever the approach is that Erica thinks is good at just getting them to say that's reasonable is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a good idea.
As I said, I'm just saying, I think that the staff has been creative on its recommendation. I think the commission could go a couple of ways on this, and that those would be appropriate, but I agree with your point about if the auditor can provide some feedback on whether a particular course of action is more or less preferable or equally weighted, that would be, I think, quite helpful
I do.
in reaching
I
our
think it would.
ultimate decision. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I think I thought of that in part because it's stunning to me that an auditor would decide you didn't have to disclose fraud in your audit. I mean, if that's what actually happened, it's pretty troubling. I think that's
They did disclose it in an IRS 990 though. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. They did
Which
seek
is
advice
very
from
odd.
counsel.
It's odd to me that it wouldn't be in the, yeah, it's odd
belongs
to me
in
it
the
wouldn't be in
audit.
the audit.
I don't know any, and there is not an auditor I ever worked with that wasn't clear at the outset if there were any findings of fraud that it would be included and that they would in fact notify the board at the moment they discovered it and tell them that. So I don't know.
That is the whole point. I mean, right?
Right. That's why you have an audit. Like I just like it is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. I think the issue is like auditors can't always find fraud, but if they know about the fraud, they should certainly.
That's my point. You
act
don't
on
always
it.
find it, but
So maybe we should table the discussion just because so we don't
Yeah.
get into the underlying merits.
Sure. Sorry.
And then next week you have everything at your fingertips. Obviously, you can reach out to staff. We're not subject to Bagley Clean like you all. So if you need more information, if you're interested, and you want to have a preemptive conversation, Joyce and I are here.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Dawn, about next week that you'd like to discuss?
No, that's it.
Awesome.
It'll be a full
Okay. Well,
meeting.
unless there's any other comments or questions from XCOM, wonderful meeting as always. Thank you all for sharing out the details from your respective committees. And I'll just echo once more, if you have thoughts on committee assignments or anything like that, please feel free to share with me, Dwan, Amin, any combination of the three, and then we will work on getting those set up ASAP. And if you have any issues with your current position, let me know. Otherwise, I think this has been a really great XCOM, so I would love for it to continue. Otherwise, I'll let you guys have a
Good
great
luck
early
with
on the
your
Halloween.
haunted house.
Yeah,
Yes,
good luck.
thank you. I'm gonna rush home and make my eyeballs and my brains.
Okay, something to share when we're all in person.
Yeah, exactly. In our in-person meeting, I can show a picture of my daughter as Rumi and my little haunted house.
Oh my God, Rumi is the most popular, like.
There were, I was saying before you joined, there were 24 Rumis at her elementary school today. It was, and then a lot of Zoes and a lot of Mira. It was crazy. I know all of them. I know all the songs, everything at this point.
K-pop demon hunters, for those of you that aren't familiar.
Yes.
Both of my nieces are dressing up as K-pop demon hunters.
My granddaughter was
one of
Taylor
those.
Swift, however, she's more into that. But anyway, lots of kids doing the thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great Halloween. Stay
Halloween,
safe,
everyone.
everybody. Have a
Happy
good one.
Halloween,
Thank
all.
you,
Thanks.
everyone. Kansas
Thank
City.
you. Bye-bye.